Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I'm your host this evening. And as you can see, we have Ophelia Staton back with us today.
Hello, hello.
Yes! So, today's show is really fun. I'm very excited because it is all about being afraid of oil painting, which is why I have her on. Because I'm not even joking. We've been trying to get this one to paint in oils for a decade. 2 decades? It's been a while. So I mean, we've been trying to talk her into it. So I actually had to manipulate her into painting with oils.
Very valid, and you did.
In a nice way. I told her to come over to the studio and we were gonna go play with some art supplies, but I didn't tell her what we were gonna do. And then I was like, "Here's some oil paints," and then she panicked slightly, which is okay.
It was
because oil paints can be scary. If you don't understand how they work, how they function, and all the things that go with them, it can be intimidating.
Very much
so. I wanted to have just a really good, raw conversation about why oil paints are scary and address all of those issues for you guys out there, as well as my good friend here. So I'm very excited. All of the things that we are going to be using throughout the show, though, you can check out in our teacher's cart. So if you go to the website, JerrysArtarama.com, and type in today's class code, which is JL261, that should bring up the teacher's cart, and everything in there should be what we're using. So, are we ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So, first things first, I made her come up with a list of questions of why oil paints are intimidating. So, let's go down the line and start with question number 1.
Question number 1. Honestly, what makes oil paints so special? They seem to be very elite or like for professionals only. Are there student grades for paints and mediums? I just feel as though they are not ones that you would like practice around with. It's like for the masters only.
Okay, so first of all, no. Oil paints are for everyone. They are for students, they're for masters, they're for everybody in between. It is just a paint. Just remember that. It is just a paint like it is. Acrylics are paints, oils are paints. They're just paint. It's just a really pretty color waiting to be squished around on the canvas that is ready to be artwork, honestly. Good artwork, bad artwork, practice artwork, all of it. So what makes oil paint special kind of lends into and kind of has that kind of endearing quality of everyone thinks of it as it's so special.
Yes.
The reason why is because of kind of how it was introduced into the world. So back in, I believe it was the 15th century in Europe, a lot of the painters at the time were using egg tempera. So if you know egg tempera, it dries really fast, it's really brittle, it can crack, and so artists using it back in the day were trying to work really fast, and so they were trying to accomplish what they were, these beautiful artworks fighting their medium. And then oil paint came kind of really popular and on the scene. So the fact that it dries slower and that it had that luminous quality, because to be honest, oil, the way that the color, the light refracts into oil makes your colors kind of pop a little bit more. It makes it have that like really pretty kind of just really vibrant quality.
Okay.
So that came on the market, and egg tempera, when it dries, it gets a little like chalky and your colors get muted. And it was like, egg tempera, oil paints, oh my gosh. So that's why oil paints became just like this amazing paint that everyone was just like,
yes.
Gosh,
so it still makes me nervous.
And that's okay though, but I mean, it was really popular at the time because acrylics weren't a thing.
Okay.
That didn't happen until, the 1900s.
Okay.
So acrylics are still, even now, relatively new. So oil paints had a lot of history and a lot of people using them and mastering them to become masters. And that's why everyone attributes it to, oh my gosh, you have to be a master to paint with it, because that was the only thing that they really, I mean, they had watercolors too, but like that was the biggest paint that was available. So if acrylics had been available back then, that probably would have had that like quality of like, acrylic paints. But it's just a paint. So, question number 2.
Ready for my next question?
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. You did ask, sorry, there was a second part to that question. the student grade.
Yes, student grades for
Yes.
paint and everything that goes with the paint.
All the things.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, yes, there's student grade paints. Absolutely. We are going to be using them today.
Okay.
So Lucas Studio. There's also Lucas 1862. The 1862 is the more professional
Okay.
level.
Okay.
The Lucas Studio is definitely I don't want to say student grade because it's still really good paint.
Right.
Um,
right. Okay.
It's still going to have a lot of pigment in there, but it is a lower price point for people out there trying to find a lower price point kind of a thing. But
Okay.
it is absolutely out there. Now, brushes, you can get really nice quality professional brushes. The ones that we're using today are still really good quality, but again, they're priced at a lower point.
I see what you mean.
So you don't have to spend
Okay.
your entire year's paycheck just to start oil painting. Mediums, though, however, there's not really grades of mediums.
standard?
It's just like a medium is a medium. They don't lower the quality
I
of
see.
that. You know, there's just different types of mediums out there. So, and we'll get into that. Don't worry. Next question.
Next question. Okay, so my studio is in my home. Are these, and I'm an acrylic painter, but are these materials hazardous? Should I have any concerns about being exposed to color or
Any kind
all
of
of the stuff that
things?
goes with it?
Okay, so I promise I wouldn't let her do this if I didn't know that it was safe. Please smell that. Do you smell anything? If anything, oil paint is going to have a slightly oily smell, like
what I
olive
was gonna
oil.
say.
You can
Okay,
smell
yep.
olive oil, like it has like
it
that
smells like
oily.
oil.
Yeah, that's all it is. This is a linseed oil with pigment. The toxicity linseed oil is not toxic.
Okay.
Not at all. Totally
Linseed
safe for
oil
you.
is not. Okay.
It is okay. Don't eat it. Don't cook with it. It is not a cooking thing.
Right.
But
Right.
it is a non-toxic oil. It's just an oil. Pigments can be toxic. Every single one in this line is non-toxic. The reason why I know that is because the AP certified
Okay.
non-toxic symbol is on every tube. It's also listed on our website as well. So the Lucas Studio, they don't use any of the toxic pigments. Now the pigments like lead white, cadmiums, cobalt, those are the pigments that can be hazardous because they're like the heavy metals.
Okay.
And that's toxic for you to consume. So breathing those in, like you're not gonna breathe in an oil paint, like it's not a gas. This is just a paint that's gonna stay on your thing. So you're not
Okay.
gonna breathe this in. Not challenging anybody on that one,
Right.
but
But out of the tube,
if you
they're
were
still
to
safe.
have that, yeah, out of the tube, it's completely safe. Even if you had a cadmium here, you can't smell any toxic fumes or anything. The issue with the toxicity for like cadmiums comes with you touching it. We're
Is that
also
what
wearing
it-
gloves,
Yep.
by the way. We are wearing gloves because even though this is all non-toxic, it is oil paints. They don't dry fast, and this one gets paint all over her.
That's a valid point. Very.
So.
I was thinking I paint with my hands, so we started
Yes.
with this immediately.
Yes. So because you do paint with your hands, and that is kind of how you work as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend for those of you who do that, first of all, wear gloves. Second of all, get non-toxic paints, like something that has that AP certified non-toxic symbol, like the Lucas Studio. So that way, even if it does get a little bit on your arm, you're not going to be absorbing anything into your bloodstream.
I gotcha. Okay.
So just to keep that toxicity thing down. Now the toxicity and that smell issue that people know about oils, that comes from your solvents. That's any kind of a solvent. Even the lavender spike oil, it has a smell to it. Now, there are solvents like this that have a non-carcinogenic, like it's non-carcinogenic, which means it just does not cause cancer if you smell it. It does have an odor though, and there's honestly no way to kind of lower the
Tamp that.
odor.
Okay.
There's nothing you can mix into this that's going to lower that down. So the other thing that you can do when you are using mediums like that is have ventilation. So we're in a big open studio. You just need to have it dissipate enough to where it's going to
Right.
have the fumes and everything away from your face and not concentrated enough to where you're breathing it in too hard.
Okay.
Or too much. Now, if you do, for those of you out there looking, and you do use toxic kind of solvents, They have portable ventilation systems that you can have. If you honestly Google portable ventilation system, it's like a little fan that has ductwork that you can just stick out your window. So you can just flip on the fan and it sucks the air out and out the window. It's amazing. Yeah, it's an exhaust fan, essentially. So even if you're in a small area, all you have to do is get a little fan and just have the air sucked out of your studio.
I see.
There's also, I don't remember what they're called, but there's like a little sensor that you can have in your studio that will measure the air around you, and if it has too much of a fume buildup, it will start going off, so that you know I need to open up the windows and get out of here. Now that, again, I can't remember exactly what that's called. I do apologize.
Okay.
But that's the
right now,
toxicity
we're
thing.
good.
Yes. So the toxicity has nothing to do with your paints. It literally comes from your mediums and your solvents. Now, you can be solvent-free with painting. And I can get into that a little bit later in the show, but you don't have to use solvents, which is very exciting. So
okay.
I will let you...
Yes, we have to come back to that, because
Yes.
now I want to know why.
I know you do.
This one is going to come up a lot, and I don't understand, and it makes me, but why does it take it so long to dry?
Okay. It is an oil. It is not water.
Okay.
You are an acrylic painter, so you're used to a water-based paint.
Okay.
Water-based paints dry through evaporation.
Right.
It does not take very long for things to evaporate,
Right.
water to evaporate, right? That's essentially what you're doing with the acrylic paints. This is not going to evaporate. It's an oil. So it dries through oxidation, so exposure to the oxygen in our air. Now, it forms a skin on the top because it dries from the outside in.
Dries from the outside in.
Yeah.
Like
so the outside is going to dry.
Of an acrylic, and it feels like a squishy.
Exactly. So same thing with oil paints. It will have like a skin form, and then it will dry, and it will form like a squishy, but it's still not fully dry. It still needs to oxidize all the way through all those layers. Do we have a question?
On that note,
Yes.
how long will oil paint stay on a palette before becoming unusable?
That is entirely going to depend on your studio, your temperature, everything in your general environment, the humidity levels. That's just one of those things. All of those things.
Too much.
But you can, in general, I would like to say a rule of thumb is that you can have your oil paints on your palette and they'll be fine for like a week.
Oh.
They might start forming that skin, and then all you have to do is pop open the skin, and then your paints are totally fine underneath that you can continue to use.
Wow.
I hope that answers that question. Yeah.
Answered mine. Yep, totally. I didn't know.
Oh, before we move on to the next question.
Yes.
Along those same lines, how long will a tube of oil paint last?
Ooh, that is a good question. So,
Like the shelf life? Is that what we... Okay.
I don't think they really have like an expiration. I have not really found an oil paint to go bad. Have you guys had any oil paints go bad at all? Because I don't think, and I mean, like, I had oil paints from when I was in college, which...
Not good quality ones.
Yeah, good quality oil paint doesn't really have a shelf life because they usually do have some preservatives in there. But...
It's like olive oil. I mean, you think about oils that have been aged for 10, 20 years. Like,
They
as
might
long as
get
they're treated
thicker.
appropriately.
Yeah, and again, they dry through oxidation, so if it's in a sealed tube, it should be fine.
Yeah.
It's...
And it's not been, like, exposed to, like, extreme heat or
Yeah.
weather.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So
So,
just
like,
in your studio,
No air is going to get in here.
tap
Right.
closed.
Yeah, so it shouldn't go bad or start drying in there. Now, if you have a lower quality paint, they might start separating from the binder. That's just because it hasn't been milled enough, and that's a whole thing. But it might start, the pigments might start separating. And have you ever had a tube of paint where you open it and you squeeze it out and you get just a bunch of binder?
The liquidy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's separating.
Okay.
And that's what happens if you, I guess, kind of let it sit for, well, even that, it might not be, it's sitting too long. It might just be the manufacturing process just needs to mill it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not that it makes it bad. You can still
You
kind of
can
mix
shake
it
your
back in.
salad dressing before you
Or,
use it.
well,
Yeah.
that's valid.
Yeah.
Or like a watercolor paint. Sometimes you open it and you
And you
have
get
to...
the binder.
Yep.
Yeah, which you can, again, just mix right back into it. It's not that your paint's unusable at that point. Any more questions, though? Okay.
All right.
What
So
are your
now,
next questions?
Are these oil paints in their mediums pretty expensive? They seem pricey. Like there's a lot of stuff here. Is this pricey?
All right, there is a lot of stuff here, but in the same lines as with acrylic painting, you have your paints,
Right.
you have your palette that you're going to work on, you have your surface that you're going to paint with, and you have your brushes.
Okay. Those things.
She's pointing to the mediums I have off to the side.
The
So these are, yes, one of those things that you do need to buy for oil painting. And the cool thing is that you can reuse a lot of the mediums. You
Okay.
don't have to use it and then throw it away
Okay.
like you would with like water with an acrylic. The solvents that I use to clean my brushes, I keep that for like 6 months. So this
So
bottle
it'll last you a long time.
Yes, it'll last me a whole like year. And that's even then I would just be topping it off kind of a thing. So I keep mine in a solvent jar because this lid will seal. And that keeps that toxic, or not toxic, sorry. It keeps the smell down.
I see.
Now, if you do have toxic solvents in there, like I'm using the Chelsea Classical Studio, so it's not toxic.
Okay.
This is going to keep the smell down, but it also keeps those toxic fumes contained.
Inside. I see what you mean.
If you use those. So this is just one of those things that I always keep the lid on, but you
But
do
just out of
want
habit,
something.
you keep the lid on for
Yeah.
spills, not
Yeah.
because it's necessary. Is that what you mean?
Well, if you use a toxic solvent, it is necessary.
But with
because
the-
you want to keep it kind of contained.
Gotcha.
But with this, I mean, I could leave it open, but the smell it gets a little strong.
I see.
Even in
Okay.
an open studio like this. Do you have another? Excuse me. Another question?
I just wanted to point out, somebody in YouTube mentioned earlier wanting to get the lavender spike oil,
Mm-hmm.
but couldn't quite commit to that full jar. We do have sampler sets of the smaller jars that start at
We do.
$6.59 for a set of 2, or the full set of Studio Sampler is 8
The-
jars. And
the little
it's-
8
yeah,
cube?
it's 8 pieces, and it's $23.99.
Yeah. $23.99 for a little sampler of all of the Chelsea
get
Classical
started.
Studio.
Lasts forever.
They
Yeah.
do. And that includes a linseed oil, a walnut oil, the brush cleaner, the spike oil, fat medium, lean medium, soap, and
Walnut oil.
oh, did I say walnut
Oh,
oil?
did you?
I think I said there might be one
Soap,
other thing that I'm
fat,
missing.
lean,
Yeah.
spike oil,
Which is,
walnut oil.
I know that's a lot. You don't have to have all of that to paint. You do need,
Jamar, retouch.
we'll get
it.
into all that. That's what it is. There's a retouching varnish in there. So all of that, I know.
I'm
Don't-
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not committing
it's okay.
yet.
I'm just overloading her brain.
I'm not committing yet. I'm
That's
not
okay.
convinced. Here we are.
It's okay.
still.
We're gonna get into painting, and I'm gonna convince her.
Not
but
committing.
there's a lot of things out there. You don't have to have it all. You do not, absolutely do not need to have it all. So I will go over all the things that we need, which I think is probably.
Is it my next question?
Oh
I'm
wait, no.
still-
It's not your next question, but we'll get into that.
Okay, so are you ready
The
for my
setup.
next question?
Yes.
All right, so
Let's
my
go.
next question
Jump in.
is, and we've pointed to this before, but there's all of these mediums, there's way too many, or it feels like there's just a lot. I don't know what they do or what they're for. It's, yep, see here.
Overloaded Ophelia. That's
Yes.
okay. That's okay. So just a brief kind of going over what these do. There's a lot of acrylic mediums, aren't there?
Valid.
There. Do you know what GAC 100 does?
Yes.
Do you know what GAC 500 does?
Yes.
Really?
No.
Neither
Just-
do I.
no, really?
I have no idea. I can't.
Thins
I
it.
keep track of all the GACs. There's a lot of things.
There's, yeah.
But
yeah.
here's the deal. This is a painting butter. Does that not cooking
Painting
butter?
butter?
Painting butter. Now, this read right there.
Wait,
Oh,
glasses.
yeah, she didn't. Sorry.
Impasto medium.
Impasto medium. Do you know what that means?
It makes it thicker. I mean, the
Yes.
peaks, what do you call it? Gives it texture. What, help me.
Exactly. This makes your paints thicker.
Butter.
It gives it a body so you can paint impasto.
Valid.
All you have to do is read the labels.
Oh.
I know there are a ton of things out there, but this has all the information on there. Now, this right here will also make your oil paints dry faster. So even though you're painting real thick, this gives it that body, but it will dry faster. So that you don't have to wait 10 years for your thick painting to dry, right? So there's there's a solution.
There is a solution.
Now,
okay.
that's just that one medium. There are several other impasto painting mediums out there. That's just one. Now, these are all kind of very similar. So I have Galkid Light. I say similar, they're not the same. This is medium number 3, and this is Liquid Original. Okay? They are all slightly different, but you know what they do?
Tell me.
They thin down your oil paints and make them dry faster.
Thin down the oil paints and make them dry faster.
So if you want to get, you were saying earlier before we started the show, the paints out of the tube are so thick.
Very much so.
Thick with 3 C's. So,
But they are.
this will thin it down
Uh-huh.
and also make it dry faster. So
Okay.
you were saying, why does it take so long to dry?
Uh-huh.
You can fix that. There are mediums out there to make the paint work better for you as an artist. That's
Okay.
all they do. And every single one of them will explain that on the label. It'll tell you exactly what it's going to do. It tells you whether or not it adds fat to it, or it should tell you whether or not it adds fat to it. But it will say, like right here, Galkid Light, thin layers will be touch dry in approximately 24 to 30 hours. 2 days,
Right?
you're good to paint back onto your painting if you use this. I mean, this is the tiny, tiny little font. Tiny font. This reduces brush. Wow, I have good eyesight, but this is good luck.
Hey, guess what? We're not reading this, but
No,
we'll take your word for it.
Liquid Original does reduce your brush
Strokes.
strokes. Brush strokes. That's hard to say. So, like, there are all different types of mediums out there. The reason why is because most of them are trying to make your oil paints dry a little faster or slower, depending on what you add in. But it's either going to give you body to your oil paints, it's going to thin it down. Whatever you need as a painter, they have it. But they all slightly move a little different. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Okay.
Just like acrylic mediums, they have an acrylic medium that makes it dry slower, right?
Yes. Okay. I
Same
see.
thing. Now, this is the spike oil. This is just this is similar to a solvent, so it'll thin it down. So it breaks down your fatty content, because you can't wash your brushes off with water, right?
Right, okay.
Because it's an oil. You have to break that oil down. This is what's gonna do that.
The solvents break the oil down.
Yes. So instead of using water, you have to use a solvent to break down the oil. Right?
Okay.
Well, because you can't
Teacher.
wash it, right? All right, now,
Too much. There's more.
well, there's linseed oil, and that's the last one. This is actually what we're going to use today.
And it does.
This is the same oil that's mixed in with your pigments in your paint. So this is already in there. Remember what I said? Linseed oil is non-toxic.
Right?
Don't cook or drink with this,
No,
please.
we're not going to.
This is not food items, but it is non-toxic. So this is the same exact oil that's in your paints already. So you can paint with it. We'll play with it.
We will.
Next question.
Oh, yep, we're back to questions. Are those mediums dangerous?
Oh, that was the other thing with those. A lot of the mediums do have a solvent base. That is one thing to kind of be aware of. That's why we're going to use the linseed oil, because this is non-toxic. Any solvent that has, or any medium that has a solvent base in it, like a turpentine mixed in, it's going to have that toxicity issue. So you still need ventilation with this.
Okay.
And that's the Galkid, the Liquid, the Impasto butter,
Okay.
the painting butter, and I think that medium number 3, which is a quick dry medium, because it says thinner is speeds the drying time, and it contains acrylic resin and a mineral spirit. So those are the things that have that odor.
I gotcha. Ugh.
Yeah.
Just okay. Sorry.
No. Next one.
I'm an acrylic painter. I go to my studio. I put paint out. I'm ready to go.
Yep.
Is there a special setup? Do we need special equipment to get all of this going?
Okay, I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
To just start oil painting, you need the paints, you need a surface, and you need your brush.
Okay.
And a palette to put it on, right?
Okay.
The paint, obviously oil.
Uh-huh.
The palette, and I'm going to actually pop this right over here. The palette, I have 2 options here. I have a glass palette on the table, which I prefer as an artist. The reason why is because I try to be kind of minimal in the like trash and stuff that I create, as minimize my trash footprint kind of a deal.
Okay.
But you can also use these. This is the Oh wow, my brain just went. This is the
You're teaching too much.
the
That's
paper
why.
palette.
Uh-huh.
That's the words I was looking for. This is a just a paper palette that is toned gray as well. So you can literally, it's made for acrylics or oils. For you, what kind of a palette do you have in your studio?
Usually this or one of those.
Butcher tray?
Thank you.
Okay.
A butcher. What
You
is
can-
wrong with our words today? It's
I
like.
don't. It's
And
we're
you
trying to
know
remember
the
words.
You know the words.
Yes,
Yes.
this is why we have Katie.
The butcher tray is what I use.
Okay, so I wouldn't. You can use a butcher tray with oil paints. I would actually not myself, just because I wouldn't want to clean it out. Personal preference.
Okay. Okay.
But you can absolutely use the palette paper that you already have.
Okay.
You don't have to go out and get more. If you have a wooden palette, you can also use that. But for me, that's more work than I really want to do, because you have to clean it and make sure that it's. You can't let your
Save
oil
all
paints
the
dry on a
stuff.
wooden palette. Whereas like with a glass palette, if I just walk away and let like the thin layers dry, and I mean, sometimes it can take a day if it's real thin, or if it like has like the blobs, you know, it gets that skin on there.
Mm-hmm.
I can just take a flat razor blade with a holder and just scrape it right off, and it's clean again.
So like an acrylic one, if I let the acrylics dry on it, I can.
Yeah.
The
Same exact
Darwin
thing.
palette. That's
Yeah.
what I couldn't think of. That's what.
So
Okay.
it's the same exact thing as far as palettes. Paints, obviously the oil paints, you can use a palette knife. Again, you don't have to go out and get new palette knives. You can just use the same one you have.
Okay.
But if you are switching from oils to acrylics, just make sure you clean it off really well.
Between the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, brushes. I gave you two options today. I gave you the Black Swan and the Pro Stroke. The Pro Stroke is the, what is that, the Explorer set. So you get a variety of brushes. There are 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are also 5 of the Black Swan. 2 different types of brushes. The reason why I would suggest you get new brushes for your oil paints is because once you get an oil paint onto your brushes, they are oil brushes.
I gotcha.
Because it is going to be almost impossible to get all of the oil out of the bristles of your brush.
Okay.
And if it's your acrylic brushes, it's not going to work well with your acrylics. So, oil brushes will stay oil brushes. So I do have tape usually in my studio,
Ooh.
because I switch around from all different types of medium. The way that I make sure that I can tell whether or not, I'm curious if I can get this with my glove on.
Valid.
The way that I can tell whether or not it's an oil brush or not is that I take a piece of tape and I wrap it around the bottom.
Okay.
These are my oil brushes. I just mark it. I know somebody was also saying to dip it into nail polish.
Okay.
You can
okay.
have sparkly, just the end,
Oh,
right.
this end of your brush,
Not
not
this
the
part.
brush
Mm-mm.
and the handle of your brush.
Oh my gosh.
Dip it into nail polish, let it dry. That's just something to indicate that it is an oil brush. Now, I gave you the 2 different types because we have a natural bristle that's going to be a little like
This one's stiff.
stiffer,
Yep.
and it's going to move that thick paint a lot easier.
So this is like the workhorse one?
Yes, that is my workhorse. That's the one that I'm gonna like start off with and kind of move the paint around. These are soft and
They
fluffy.
feel nice.
Yes. So these are great for if you want to minimize your brush strokes, if you want to do really thin, nice, soft transitions, and also to blend out your brush or blend out your color transitions and things like that. These are like your fancy like fluff brushes. Question?
You mentioned not mixing brushes from oil to acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
What about oil to water soluble oil?
Water soluble.
Water soluble oils are still an oil, so they would work well. That's fine. Because you're most likely going to clean your brushes in between with, and we'll get into how to clean them a little bit later. I didn't want to jump into that just yet, but yes, you should be fine to have your oil, like your regular oil painting brushes, be okay with the water soluble brushes. So those are the 2 brushes I have. Now the surface, I gave you. I know
can't even
she likes to.
concentrate on this because it's I'm too nervous. I'm too nervous.
That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
We're just gonna be squishing some paint around. Now the surface I gave you is the Centurion LX. Now this just happens to be a panel that we had in the studio. You don't have to get a linen. You can get a cotton. I actually did found out that there is the Creative Mark. There is the exact same size for $15.99 is for a pack of 12 right now. So these come in a
That's
pack
right.
of 3, but they are linen, so it's primed, it's gessoed, it's ready to go. You don't have to do anything. Same thing with the Creative Mark ones, but those are cotton. These though, for a pack of 3 is $15.57. So if you get these, each panel is about $5.
Okay. And you said gesso. Is that like the same acrylic gesso or?
Universal primed. So this is primed for all media. Since you're an acrylic painter and you don't want to like really commit to oils, get a panel that's going to work for acrylics. So this
yep, I
works
see what
with
you mean.
all of your media that you already love. So don't go out and get oil primed linens that you can only use with oils.
I gotcha.
Just because you're not sure if you want to use it. But the Creative Mark ones, if you get the pack of 12,
Mm-hmm.
that comes out to $1.33 per panel.
I use
So
those.
this is going to be your throwaway paintings. Now say this with me. My first few paintings are going to be garbage,
My first few paintings are going to be garbage,
and that is okay.
and that is okay.
Surfaces are not precious.
Surfaces
are not precious.
Yes.
Oil paints are still scary
This,
right now.
If you get the Creative Mark panels, $1.33 per panel,
Mm-hmm.
you can throw this away and not feel bad about it, right?
That's what I use all the time for experimenting with acrylic stuff.
Exactly. So get yourself set up to not have to spend a ton of money. And even if you decide that oil paints are not for you, the panels that you have can still work with acrylics. So you can still use them for other things. Now, I believe that is all of the things other than the oil. So linseed oil, like I said, we're just going to use this because instead of the solvent,
And what's this little thing?
this is just a cup to hold it.
Okay.
If you have like a little jar, like I have at home a little like mason jar.
Okay.
You can have it in there too.
I gotcha.
These are great
To pour
because
out
they
of that.
clip. Yeah. These are great because they clip onto your palette with a little clip. So they don't move around. But let me pop this open.
We're popping things open.
It's happening. Are you ready?
No.
Yes, we're
I
doing it.
trust you. Clear.
Now again, do you smell anything right now?
No, I don't. That's
That's the beauty of using linseed oil. So we're gonna be painting solvent free today.
okay.
All right. Now the colors that I picked, I did swatch as well. Do you recognize these colors?
I do.
Why do you recognize them?
Because this is my favorite palette of Lucas colors ever.
Okay, so we are using the Lucas oils. You use Lucas acrylics.
Absolutely.
So here are the colors that she uses all of the time.
Yes.
So these are this is her palette. If you're gonna start switching from acrylics to oils, don't reinvent the wheel.
I gotcha.
Just use what you already love and know and figure out whether or not this is a medium for you. Now, if you don't know any kind of painting whatsoever and you're not familiar, I would suggest starting off with a little starter kit like the Studio Oil
Okay.
has your basic colors, white, black, and a burnt sienna. So this is a really good way to figure out how it feels, if it's gonna be good for you, if you don't already have a palette established. Now, you already do, so
Okay.
we're gonna use your palette because there's no need to
Right.
switch it up and
Right.
do something that you
It's
don't know.
very familiar
you know?
to me. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Start with familiar.
Start
So
with-
I'm gonna start just putting the colors down. There's titanium white. And are you ready?
Just you pouring it out makes me nervous. Here we go. Let's do.
Why?
I don't know why.
There's no need. It's just paint.
It's just paint.
It's
You're right.
just paint. There's the Indian yellow. Now, you usually use apricot, but we didn't have apricot in this line. So we have a peach pink, which is very similar.
Yes, it is.
And it's very fun, you know?
These two
Now,
ones.
I'm putting out way too much paint. That's way too much paint. But
Yep.
we're both going to be painting. So
Okay.
that's enough paint for both of us. With oils, even though they're a little bit pricier than acrylics, because you were
use
asking about
less.
that.
Yes.
You use way less because the paint is more pigmented than it is with acrylics,
Okay.
usually. Oils usually carry a lot more pigment.
Okay.
We have a question?
That actually was a question that we had on YouTube. Why would a cadmium yellow in an oil paint be more expensive than that same cadmium yellow in an acrylic?
The reason why is because you're getting a lot more pigment. Now, the amount of paint that you use is going to be significantly less because it's going to go a long way. It's
Okay.
like, think of these as like really concentrated.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All right, now I'm going to actually start going down the side.
It's such a beautiful color palette, though.
I mean, you have a beautiful color palette. This is all you. All right, now these last few colors are the other ones that she has a secondary color palette that she uses that we're not going to touch today. But
Okay.
so we have that's the peach pink. This is the what did I put down? Magenta.
magenta.
This is cadmium
orange.
orange hue. So that's not actually a toxic cadmium. It's a substitute. This is the cadmium red deep hue. Again, not toxic cadmium. Then we have the turquoise, which who does not love that color? Yes. And then the Payne's gray.
Yes.
So you can use a palette knife, you can use a brush. But we are going to start off with just paint, right? So I'm going to go ahead and dip my paintbrush into my linseed oil. Now, if you wanted to, you could also dip it into a solvent at this point, and just to get your paints thinned out a little bit. Now, which color do you normally start with?
Let's pretend I started with a mixture, so like the white and the Indian yellow.
Okay.
How would I?
White, Indian yellow.
That's what I was
Grab
going to
it.
ask. Okay. Do I need to dip my brush in here first, or
If you
no?
want to thin it down, or if that's a good consistency right there, feel it. Feel how it works. Feel how it squishes around. Is that super thick?
I would rather a little bit more thinned.
So
No,
dip it into the,
I was about to ask, can I put my dirty brush into this?
yeah. Just dip it lightly. Don't swish it around. You just need, now, did you get any in there?
No, I did not.
Exactly. It's not going to come off like acrylics. Like, it's not going to just kind of start
Okay.
dissipating into it. Now, if
Now,
you
see,
were
this
dipping
feels
into a
supplied.
solvent, that would be a problem. So there you go.
Uh-huh.
Now, just apply it to your canvas, right?
Okay. I picked up too little paint.
Okay,
somehow.
grab more. Just squish some paint. It's okay. Go at it. Go crazy. Now, here's the cool thing. If you want to take the section of paint that you already have and thin it down a little bit more, you can just go straight with the oil, straight in, and thin it out and blend it out.
I guess how do I know if I'm using too much of the linseed oil stuff?
There is no such thing.
Okay.
Limit does not exist. Now, you do have to follow, and I know this is the part where you're going to get very confused, the fat over lean rule, but we are working on a painting that we're most likely going to be finished in one go, right?
Okay, yes.
So at that point, you just need to paint. The fat over lean rule is where you have to start adding in additional layers on top. Like if you were going to glaze on top of this, that's where it really, really comes into. Now, the reason why is because that first layer, as it's drying, it's still kind of squishy and wet, right? If I put a thin layer on top of that and it dries faster, and this is still moving, what do you think that top layer is going to do?
It's going to crack.
Crack. So that's where you want to make sure you follow that fat over lean rule. If it's all still wet, you're fine. You have a question?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit how the fat over lean rule would apply in regards to painting oils over the top of acrylics?
I'm so glad you asked that because I have a surprise for Ophelia. She
Can't
might
do this. I
She
can't.
might. No. It's a fun surprise. It's a fun surprise.
I can't.
I don't know if you're ready for this. Whee!
It's already acrylic ready.
I have two of them.
Ooh,
So
that's pretty.
I used fluorescent colors. Which one do you want to use? Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Wait, what?
So I'm gonna actually just make you abandon this one.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Helps without
Okay.
gloves here. All right. So to let me actually just put this down.
Okay.
So to paint on an acrylic prime surface, your acrylics need to be fully dry.
Okay.
Right? Go ahead and paint. That's all you have to do. So your first layer on acrylic is already technically zero oil. It's very lean because there's no oil there. It's absolutely lean.
Okay.
Now lean just means that you brought that oil content down, right? lower oil content down on the bottom, higher content on the top.
Okay.
So your oil paints have oil in them. If you bring that content down with like a solvent, because remember solvents break down that oil a little bit. So that's what I mean by bringing it down. Then you're gonna have lean layers. Now, if you wanna paint on top of that after it dries, add in more of the fatty content. Now, if I had already used a lean layer, I can just go straight in with paint on top of that. Now, if that gets really, really confusing, for those of you, because I don't think we're gonna have enough time to fully explain all of that, the exact next show is glazing like a master with oils. So I go full detail into how to glaze with all of those fat over lean layers in that show. So make sure you guys subscribe and get the notifications because it's gonna be next show.
Okay.
So all you have to do to paint on top of acrylics though is to just start painting. That's it. So I am going to use the bright fluorescent. Now, this is the fluorescent magenta. Wow, look at my glove.
I know,
Just, like,
I love that.
the color vibrancy is insane. So this is a fluorescent magenta, and you have the fluorescent signal red mixed in with the rose.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
Actually, I have them here on the, yeah. So fluorescent magenta, and then these are the two that I mixed in, just half and half for yours.
Okay.
So fluorescent signal red and rose. How lovely are those?
It's beautiful.
See,
now I'm
this
feeling
is-
at home. a little.
Exactly. See, this is why I was going to surprise her, because I wanted her to just start painting and feel excited to paint. And this is why you set yourself up for success by making it something that's already familiar. I don't want you to paint a still life. I want you to paint what Ophelia paints. She's an abstract painter, so she's going to paint abstract. Don't think that oil paints are going to require you to all of a sudden paint still lives and landscapes and things. Like you are you as an artist, still be you.
Oh my, all right. So at this point right now, when I would be painting, I literally want to put my hand in there and smooth out the brush strokes.
This is your smoother. Remember that? So start using that brush. Look at her face.
Oh.
So you have different tools here. This is the really push your paint around and scrub it out kind of a tool. This is your finesse brush. Workhorse and finesse.
Now let's just pretend if I'm painting at home and I'm done with this color on this brush, what do I need to do with it?
That is a fantastic question. So if you want to paint solvent free, take your rag, which you have over there, and get the majority of the paint off of your brush, right? Now, dip it into the linseed oil and get the majority of the paint off your brush. Keep going back and forth until that linseed oil is nice and clean, right? Now, it doesn't have to be 1000% clean,
Okay.
but see how clean I got my brush in just one dip? That's all it takes. Now, the cool thing is that if you want to be solvent-free completely, you can either now go wash your brush out with soap, which, in case you were wondering, I like to use the Masters brush cleaner. This is a great soap for it. You can also use the Chelsea Classical Studio has a wonderful lavender and olive oil soap that conditions and cleans your brush at the same time. Both of them are in my studio and I use them almost simultaneously. I just grabbed this.
I have a question though.
yes.
Because we've taken the oil out, is that why we can use this in water or that in water?
That will actually break down the oils in your brush too. So that soap, same thing with the Chelsea Classical Studio. They are designed to break down the oils in your brush.
Okay.
So it's going to clean it out really nice and condition those bristles and make it to where you can now store this long term. Now that's a long term thing. If you want to store this to where I can come back to this tomorrow, I would keep the linseed oil on there. I would not get the majority of this off. And then I would wrap this with either plastic wrap
Okay.
or like a towel or something to where I can just store this, keep that oil on there with as little amount of oxidation, kind of allowing it to kind of reach there, like, because oxygen is how it dries, right?
Right, I
So
see.
if I plastic wrap this and it's covered in oils, it's not going to dry. I can then unplastic wrap it and then go back to painting the next day. Ta-da!
Oh my gosh.
And that's just the easiest way to do solvent free. Now, if you want to use solvents, you can also clean your brush off with a Chelsea Classical Studio, the spike oil. It will clean the oils off your brush like almost instantaneously. But that's, you would honestly just clean your brush off and then change colors kind of a thing. Easy peasy, right?
No. I can't wrap my, see, like this guy, it's sitting there. Is that okay for right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
How long do you think that's going to take to dry?
400 years later.
So, what? You don't have to, like, if that were acrylic, that would be dry in like 5 minutes, if that, right?
Okay.
It's
all right.
fine.
So I can keep,
You can go back and forth. Now, the one thing for beginners that's really, really great, when you first start off with oil painting, I like to keep one brush for my warm colors and one brush for my cool
Genius.
warm and cool,
Yep.
so that they don't get muddy. Now, if
Genius.
you just get the same brushes, I guess kind of like have the same size.
I see
That
what
way
you
you
mean.
can switch back and forth.
Oh, see, that's genius, because I do feel as though you went through a lot to kind of get the color off, where 2 separate brushes, warm and cool colors, you can
And it
go
won't, yeah,
between.
you can keep switching back and forth without having to worry about getting those colors really, really muddy.
Okay.
So,
Um,
yes.
So you just have the spike oil container. We have a question on Facebook. Does the
Yep.
pigment fall to the bottom like it would with solvent?
Absolutely. Can you go grab the jar out of the cabinet? Just make sure you don't stir it. I just recently cleaned this out. And funny you should ask that. If you guys do, subscribe, because that's also coming up. I actually go through how to clean out your solvent jar, like completely how to clean it out. I'm gonna actually grab it over here. Here we go. All right.
and I'm
so-
afraid of the jar, I don't know why, I'm like,
It's just a jar.
There's a jar.
All right, so do you actually want to switch to the front view? Because it's probably going to be a little easier to see. All right, so I
Perfect.
cleaned out my jar of solvent and I dumped it into here. Now, if you guys want to know the whole process of how to clean out your solvents, make sure you watch that show. It's going to be in 3 or 4 weeks, somewhere in there. It's going to be sometime in October because I'm going to be in France. So that is one of those shows that we pre-recorded for you guys to check out. So we actually go through the whole process of how to get rid of your solvents, all of it, including of where to go for the dumps at the dump site and everything. But as you can see, the pigment is starting to settle
oh, okay.
to
25.
the 25th. October 25th is when that show is going to happen. But you can see, though, is my pigments are settling. So this is what happens in your solvent jar that I have over here. If you use a solvent, your pigments are real heavy.
Right.
So as you're cleaning your brush, they're going to start falling down. And
do
then
you
they
reuse
settle.
that?
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I poured all my solvents out into this jar. I'm waiting for it to fully settle. Then I can pour my good usable solvent back into my jar and reuse it. Like, this is why, yes, the solvents and all the mediums and everything
see.
are expensive, but you don't have to just use it once and then dump it.
I see. Yep,
Yeah.
that makes total sense.
It's
Right.
not ruined because it's purple.
Exactly. It will still clean my brushes A-okay.
Just can't.
It just is a really funny color.
I just can't. I know, did you know? I'm just like, I don't know what to do, so.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh, it just, I don't.
She's oil painting. Does everyone see this? It's on camera. Ophelia's oil painting.
This is,
Is it scary though? Are you?
it's not scary, but it's a lot of information. And I
and
guess
that's okay
learning
because
it.
you guys can also rewatch this show and get all this information again. This is going to be rewatchable forever.
Yes.
So now, before we, how are we doing on time? Because I know we're trying to get through all these questions that
Sorry,
we had.
because,
10 minutes left.
Okay.
are you serious? Because I still have so many questions. Okay, hold please.
Okay. That's
Let's
okay.
get my glasses back on. Hey, guess who did not even put paint on their hands?
I'm impressed.
So I've already asked about the special equipment. The paint is kind of thick. That rule of fat over lean that you did that. As far as all of this goes, is hazard and such, is there a fire risk with anything? I know that sounds ridiculous.
No,
but
no, it does not sound ridiculous. There is a fire risk in this, and it's the thing that you actually wouldn't think.
Oh, why?
This is a fire risk. All right, you remember how I said that oil paints dry through oxidation?
Uh-huh.
That process is a chemical reaction that is happening, and that reaction produces heat. This is a lovely substance, the rag, that likes to catch on fire and is a great thing to burn and burns fast.
I gotcha.
So this right here,
So like
especially
paper
if you,
towel.
yes, same
Okay.
thing, same thing. If you wipe off your paints and everything onto a rag, onto a paper towel, all of those rags and paper towels that you have are a fire hazard, and that's not scary as long as you're aware of it, because there is just to make sure that you are being safe and everything. It's not going to happen overnight, kind of a thing. It's not going to like instantaneously combust in your hands, kind of a thing. That's not going to. It takes a while. But there is one thing that I do recommend if you decide to be an oil painter on a regular basis. There is something you need to do to put these into, and I have it right here. Hold on, I need to grab it. This is a fire safe can. Notice the little thingy. It's a trash can. It's trash can.
Okay, okay.
So this is a trash can essentially for your rags. The reason why I recommend this for people that are going to be oil painters on a regular basis is because you're going to have rags. This is just going to be, it's going to happen. It's a thing.
Okay.
So when you're done, you put them in there. That way, if any of those reactions happen, it is contained. It will not spread to your whole
I
house.
gotcha. It stays in that can.
Yes. So that is one of those things that, sorry, that's a noise. That's one of those things that I just want to make sure that people out there, if you are going to have an oil painting studio, have one of those. Also, there is a fire safe cabinet to store all of your solvents in, because solvents are flammable. So even if the oil paints themselves aren't the cause of a fire, this is going to be an issue. Mediums, your solvents, anything that has a flammable quality, anything that has that like hazardous kind of a thing to it, that has the ability to spread fire. So just to kind of keep that all contained, there is a fire safe cabinet that will actually close and keep it all kind of contained. Yes.
What about after the safety can is full?
That was the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I do appreciate. If you are still just trying this out, number one, I wouldn't recommend you investing in all of these like handy dandy fire safe things. What you can do is douse this in water,
Okay.
put it in a bag, throw it out. The water is going to keep it from combusting into flames, and it's going to still continue to dry through oxidation because it's oxygen, right? What's in water? Oxygen is part of water.
I'm just
Hydrogen
enjoying
and oxygen.
dipping it
Science.
in there.
Love science. So it's
Learning
still,
while
this
creating.
is still going to cure even if it's doused in water, but
Okay.
it will not catch on fire. So you can then throw it out into your trash can, and then they can take it to the dump. You can also just take it straight to the dump. But once these are cured, it's no longer a hazard. You can also reuse these if you want to, but you have to wash them. And I would recommend a portable washing machine. They have ones on Amazon that you can just sit on your counter.
Oh, to keep it that separate from everything else.
Yeah, I wouldn't put this in your washing machine at home. I would put this in a portable one with a degreaser.
A
Yes.
degreaser.
We have a question?
I lost it. Oh, there we go. What about disposable pallets with oil paints on them?
It's not really as much of a hazard as your cloth. This is cotton. This is like a
Coated
weird waxy
something.
paper.
Yep.
I don't think this is really going to catch on fire. Now, if you want to be extra safe, yeah, you can toss it out with these and douse it in water, kind of a thing. But I've never really heard of these catching on fire. I don't know if you guys have. We have a question?
I stopped paying attention.
That's okay.
Are the
You keep painting.
water-soluble mediums and rags, is that also a safety concern?
Water soluble oils are still oils. They still dry through oxidation, so yes. Now, you're still using water with them, so if it's doused in water, it can still cure and it's going to be less of a hazard. Yes, we have a question?
Melissa
You
would
keep
like
painting.
to know if painting solvent free, so no solvents, is it safe to paint with oils in the same room with birds? Like if someone's got a pet parrot or a finch.
If you only use like your linseed oil, is linseed oil toxic for birds?
Animals, yeah.
That's-
Especially with ventilation, and they're
Yeah.
not right over top of it. I mean, Amy
Yeah.
used to paint with.
I would think birds are
Oh, valid
fine,
point.
but like
I don't think
I know
we
linseed
use
oil is not
linseed
toxic
oil
for
since she
humans.
got-
Since she got
Again, you don't want to eat it.
I know
But
you definitely do not want to use solvents because birds
No.
are notoriously
Bad for birds,
sensitive
yeah.
to any kind of chemical, anything in the air. But that might be a better question for their veterinarian.
Yeah.
yeah, I would say ask your vet. But I don't think so because again, remember you're using linseed oil, and this is non-toxic for us. I just don't want to 100% say that because I am not a vet and I don't know.
And
Again,
I now
also,
have 4 dirty brushes.
That's okay. We will clean them. Let's keep painting. Keep painting and have fun. But the one thing I did want to say is that you also,
Did you notice I was doing the back of my paintbrush because I
and
was
I'm
too
so
afraid
excited
to
that
ask?
you were, you like to use the jumbo jet.
Absolutely. Will this work with this guy?
You know what a jumbo jet is?
Oil
A
impregnated
jumbo jet is
charcoal.
an oil impregnated charcoal, so it already has a little bit of oil in there, and yes, they absolutely work with that. Look at happy Ophelia.
Okay, I'm still not convinced, but I'm painting with oils and
now-
I'm trying it.
With the toned canvas that we already have, you can use this as a tool as well. So, if I decide that I love that fluorescent pink and I want to get back to it, I can take this and erase back out, and ta-da, it's all gone from where I erased it. So this is where oil paint differs from acrylic.
Acrylics, yep.
And it's not that you have to be an oil painter. I'm not one of those people that says oil paint is the most amazing thing ever and you have to use it over acrylic. No, you need to use what works best for you as an artist. And you might hate oil paints at the end of this day. I really hope you don't. But
I'm painting with oil paint.
but there are things that oil paints can do that acrylics cannot. You have a question?
So we can use the jumbo jet pencil with it. Could you use oil pastels with oil paints?
Okay, so an oil pastel is a different oil from oil paint. So the reason why I say that is because an oil pastel, the oil in there, it doesn't fully dry ever. If you really, really want to do stick form, hopefully, sorry, I have it in a can. Doesn't look very professional. I'll put them over here. So we have these. These are essentially like a giant crayon of oil paints. These are the R&F, what is it, pigment sticks? Pigment sticks, yeah. So this is essentially a big chunk of oil paint that is mixed with, I believe, just enough wax to make it a stick form, but it still acts like oil paint. Now, it does form a bit of a skin on the outside because it is an oil paint, and the outside has dried through oxidation. So this right here has a skin on it, and it's not coming off of my glove. But if I break through that skin, I could then use this as a giant crayon, or like an oil paint, or oil pastel, and essentially use that on my canvas. So these work really well with oil paints, and if you really like oil pastels, but oil pastels and oil paints are different. So I would not recommend mixing them together. I personally have not, because of that difference, not saying that you absolutely cannot. You as an artist can break all the rules and do whatever you want. But I don't know what the end result's gonna be.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Like this is going to take a bit to dry.
Yes.
how then do I get other color on top? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I was waiting for you to get to this stage because the more you
yeah.
paint
Uh-huh.
onto that, and the more you kind of fluff it kind of a thing, the more it's going to mix. And you do that as a painter with acrylic because your layer's dry. With oil paints, I would suggest less brush strokes or use a palette knife.
Did
So
you
you do
notice
see-
I've spent 4 hours just
Just fluffing,
Yep.
right?
And
Yeah,
that's
so
unnecessary.
It's one of those things that you, as an oil painter, are going to have to work differently
I
than
see.
you as an acrylic painter. So if you start like really noodling with your brush strokes and like really fluffing kind of a thing, you're going to blend your colors on your canvas. Whereas like you then now have to figure out how to lay down chunks of color in as few brush strokes as possible.
Okay.
So, do you want to play with a?
I think I'm good.
Okay. You don't have to.
Good.
I'm
Yeah,
going
I don't-
to.
Are you going to play with one?
I'm going to do this. What is this? Quinacridone magenta. I have a lot of magenta happening on my canvas, so I'm just going to keep going with it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to actually pop the skin off just a little bit because I don't need to kind of really get the whole thing. But I'm just going to kind of here.
Okay, can I borrow that? Mm-hmm. Boop.
And then what's cool is because this is oil paint, I can also blend it out. Right? Again, this is the face of joy.
I'm not
Love
kidding.
it.
I didn't. Oh wait, I can fluff it. I meant not fluff it, but
Yeah, you can blend
I
it
just
out.
want to
You
see
can
what.
blend it.
Okay, look at how many
can
things I
call
have
it
in my
fluffing.
hand. I don't
Fluff
know.
it. Fluff it.
I don't. I had to put my fingers there.
Mm-hmm. All right, now because we are, and again, I want to make sure that we got all of our questions. I haven't.
Oh, sorry.
actually said- No,
Yep.
you keep painting. I will look at these. We got
How do
through
you
the
store the
store
mediums?
in the cabinet, like I was
Okay.
saying, and then the why a need for water soluble oils. That's your question.
Okay.
So the need for water soluble oils is again the painting without solvents. So the fact that some people have an aversion, like they cannot paint, like Frida is extremely sensitive to smell.
Like ridiculously.
She's the nose.
Okay.
She is our nose around the whole office.
Okay.
So, and I'm gonna actually, while you're doing that, I'm gonna just pop this up just
Okay.
a little bit.
I think I've stopped listening to you because
That's
now I'm
okay.
painting.
That's okay.
Okay,
This is
sorry.
this is
I
what
am
I wanted.
painting.
I'm gonna also take that out of your hand. 'cause
yeah,
the
have you
camera's
noticed-
starting to focus on it,
Okay.
not the
I had
painting.
14 different brushes going on.
But I want to see if you look at the screen. Yeah, they can actually really see your artwork there.
Okay.
Water soluble oils. If
Yes.
you want to make sure that you don't have any kind of like a solvent thing,
Uh-huh.
and you still want to like break it down. Sorry, again, it's just focusing on the paintbrush.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to see your artwork.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's totally fine because I'm gonna sit this here. Sorry, I'm listening still.
No,
I
you're
promise.
fine. You're fine. This
Can I clean this
is
off?
Ophelia. Yeah, this is Ophelia getting into her artwork. I love it. She's a little like all over the place and gets real. This is what I wanted. This is what that
Okay.
excitement that I
Yes.
was looking for from you.
I
love
don't
it.
understand all the things, but it still is just paint.
It is just paint. You're just squishing paint around. And that's
Understand.
the same thing with water soluble oils is that it's just paint. It just breaks down with water. So if you don't want to break it down with solvent and you don't want to have to use a lot of linseed oil to kind of wash out your brushes, see, you're using your fingers and this is non-toxic and it's okay. And you have gloves on and
Yes.
it's okay that you're doing that. So
Okay.
that's why
Okay.
I set you up for painting like you do. Right?
Yes, and you can paint just like you paint with these guys.
Yes. So if anybody out there, I love that statement. You can paint just like you normally paint, but with oils, you might have to slightly modify things here and there, but it's something fun to kind of experiment with and kind of play around with. But if the people out there watching have very specific questions with their own setup that they are not quite sure with, you guys can always reach out to me. You can get in touch with me on my Facebook page, which is Emmy, host of Jerry's Live. You can also jump into the Facebook group that we have, the Jerry's Live Facebook group. It's free to join. You just have to answer that one security question. Just because if you don't, you're deemed a robot, and I
Okay.
can't let you in. Sorry.
Okay.
But that's the other ways that you guys can reach out to talk to me about your own personal setup. I'm happy to help, especially if you are just so intimidated with oils. I know it's a lot.
I feel like it's a learning curve for sure, but that's
It
with
is, and that's the
everything.
thing. That's why I said your first painting is
Not precious. I don't remember. Is that
It's-
it?
first painting is gonna be garbage.
Oh, your first painting is gonna be garbage.
Yes. Now, do you want to see your first painting?
I forgot that I was tricked into this moment.
I did trick her into
I
painting.
forgot. I do
So this
remember.
was Ophelia's first painting where I just gave her random paints. This was not her color palette. And do you see how muddy the colors got?
Because I did that 4,500 strokes on one
Exactly.
area.
You overblended, but that's okay. It's a learning curve. This is you learning the materials. So it's on a panel. Now, granted, this is the oil prime linen, but this is still
I
not
see what you
precious.
mean.
You
Yep.
can still paint on top of this.
Okay.
You can still adjust it. Now, if I wanted to, well, I have it here. Let me get linseed oil. I'm going to add in that fat. I can glaze on top of this and slightly change those colors, right?
Uh-huh.
If I don't like it, I can take my rag and erase what I just did.
But you always stick your brush into that pot.
That's the fat over lean rule that I'm
Because
talking about.
you're-
So
yep,
there's already a
glazing.
layer of fat on here, so I need to add in more of that fat content, right? So
That floats to the top.
it does.
She knows everything.
She does. But this is your first painting, and I'm going to keep this unless you wanted, because I didn't think she did. But this is Ophelia's like very first ever attempt at oils,
paint.
and it was mud, and it is okay. And it doesn't have to be precious. It's just you playing with paint. It's just paint, and you just get to experiment.
Why
the
am I
first
still
few
holding
times.
this like it's...
Because
I
you're
don't-
still painting.
I know, but I feel like now I'm holding them like it's like...
Because you're ready to paint. Ready to paint. I love it.
Oh, see, there I go. Wait.
All right, now
sorry.
your last two
Yes.
questions that you had on here is storage for what paintings?
Yes.
So I happen to have a butcher's rack that I just toss all my
rack.
paintings on over there.
Okay.
We also have a drying rack that is amazing. You can either have it stand up at a triangle or you can have it mounted on a wall. But it has little drying rack brackets that you can grab.
Okay.
If you just want to leave it onto a table and just make sure that, you know, your cat doesn't crawl all over it kind of thing. Again, these are non-toxic, so if it does get on your cat, you know, it should be okay, but just make sure you, again, check with the vet.
Vet, right.
I would probably still give them a call.
Right.
But it's one of those things that, like, if you put it in a place where no one's going to touch it, should be okay.
Okay.
But it does take a minute to dry. But this one, I was just looking back to see when we did this. It's fully dry. We did this on August 11th, and today is
September 27?
September 27th. So it's been 48 days? 48 days, about. So this is touch dry, and it's been 48 days. It was also dry well before that. Then I will say there was another one that we were experimenting on, which was a lot thinner, and this pink, because I had it on my palette, I actually ended up, because this was our second painting, and the colors got a lot less muddy. So you started figuring out those color situations, and I love what you're doing right now. Oh my gosh. Looks like an Ophelia painting, and it's oils.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I? All right, so I'm a messy kind of painter. You're very neat, but do you see how I've got oil paint on my table now? How do I clean that up? But I guess we're going to get into cleaning stuff.
Yeah, we can get into cleaning, unless you want to keep painting. But
Oh, but I'm ready whenever you are. I just don't know how to clean. Sorry.
I was just gonna touch base on the pink here.
Yep.
I put this on probably a week after we were painting, and again, it's still dry, and it's pretty thick up here. So it does touch dry. Now this is something that I wouldn't varnish for 6 months because it is still on the
6 months?
and that's varnish.
Varnish.
Varnish. So a varnish is your final protective layer, right? So I wouldn't varnish this until at least 6 months. Now this is relatively on the thinner side, so I know within about 6 months to a year, if you're a little bit thicker. I
just said a year.
It's already been like 50 days that we've painted
Right.
these, so time flies.
And we're having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I wouldn't varnish this until about no, if you paint real thick like the Impasto, 2 years. But if you use the Impasto painting butter, like the painting butter, it'll dry a little faster. And that's where you can probably slim that time frame down just a little bit.
That's a lot of planning and prep.
But see, if you just date the back of your painting, you know exactly when you painted it.
Oh, that's a great
And
idea.
you can kind of see, oh, it's about time for me to be varnishing that. It's been forever since I painted it. And then you go check on the date and be like, oh, I still have another month before I should.
Okay.
And then you fully varnish it and then you're done. And it's protected and that's that. Now,
Okay.
I will say I have also sold paintings that were unvarnished. And I was like, hey, buyer, just FYI, it's not varnished. If you would like to send it back to me, I will varnish it at this date. Or you can full on just take it to a another like local artisan who knows what they're doing, and they'll varnish it for you.
Okay.
I'm sure for a fee. But for me, I incorporate that into my price. So that's one of those things that if you do oil paintings as a thing that you
professional.
sell,
Yep.
just make sure that your buyer is fully aware, and just be completely transparent about it. And it's relatively easy to deal with. Or they can just wait to have it varnished and then you can ship it off. It's one of those things. So, are you about ready for cleanup?
I feel like should be cleaning up, but I feel like I'm making more of a mess.
That's okay,
So
'cause-
tell me what to do
All right,
now.
so we would clean our brushes just like we normally did earlier. If you want to use linseed oil, you'd have to dip back and forth. I'm just going to use a spike wheel.
The solvent.
Yes, which is non-carcinogenic because it is a lavender plant-based instead of petroleum-based. So I just, this is good now. Ta-da! This works a lot faster. Yes, we have a question?
Real quick, is
Yes.
varnishing necessary for an oil painting?
Yes. I would say it is absolutely necessary because varnishing is one of those things where, like, an oil painting over time, the linseed oil does yellow a little bit. So that varnish layer is going to protect it for all of those, like, if there's smoke, if there's dust, if there's just,
Just regular.
pollution in the
Yep.
air in general. It's one of those things that
Oh wait, I need
the
that one more
varnish
time.
layer, yep, you're fine. I'm just, again, I keep it closed
I gotcha.
just to kind of contain the smell. But a varnish, though, is going to give you that layer of protection that if within 100 years it starts to turn yellow, they can remove that layer, apply a new varnish, and it looks brand new again. And it will also keep it from cracking, and it kind of just is a really, really, really important step in protecting your artwork. So even if, you're not an amazing famous painter right now, maybe you will be in 100 years. Keep your family's legacy protected, right?
Valid point.
Look
Sorry,
at that
sorry.
painting. No, I'm so excited for this.
Hi.
All right, so we would clean our brushes just like that. I'm going to
Okay.
actually just toss that off to the side. For you, because I don't really have any paint everywhere. For
Messy
you,
painter. Oh.
this is a Ophelia product.
Definitely.
You
Because
and your
look at
Soho
my
wipes.
space and look at yours. Like, were you even here?
I'm an incredibly clean painter.
She's a
Here,
ridiculous.
push it off to the side.
unnatural.
Push it off
No,
to
no,
the
no,
side.
like here. No, do you see Ophelia?
Yes.
Emmy.
Uh-huh.
Now that is just because that's how I work in general. I also did a lot less painting than you did. Now, I'm going to take this, make sure I don't touch it, and put it off to the side kind of a thing.
Okay.
Ah.
Now we're cleaning up.
This is a tablecloth. If you know that you're a messy painter, you can lay down a tablecloth that you just don't care about.
Like plastic?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you want to, Soho wipe.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
No, I'm not worried about this at all.
Right.
This is a throwaway tablecloth because we do art here all the
Why am
time.
I painting now on the table? Sorry. Carry on.
You can paint on the table.
Not going to do it anymore. Oh my gosh.
Smiley.
Okay.
This is a throwaway tablecloth. That's
I gotcha.
why we have it. I set her up for success.
Yes,
you don't
you
have
did.
to worry about this,
Okay.
right? So if you do need to clean off anything, a Soho wipe is your friend.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to make sure to close up my solvent container.
Okay.
And then all I would then have to do is take this, rip it off, throw it away.
In just the regular garbage.
Yep, and then I'm done. Now, if I am painting tomorrow, which normally I am, because I paint all the time, I'm not too worried about my brushes getting perfectly clean. I don't wash these with soap every day. The reason why is because it's going to start wearing and tearing down on your bristles really fast. Whereas, like, I would, again, leave a little bit of linseed oil in here, store it for the day, and then come back to it tomorrow.
Okay.
Now, if you are going to be like me, I'm going
Done.
away to France for
Yep.
a residency. I'm going to clean these with soap, lay them flat on the table, or you can also leave them up like this, hanging to where the water will drip out of the bristle and not into the ferrule, because
Good
that
brush
will
care.
protect your brush. And then let it fully dry, and then this can be stored long term. And that's your cleanup. Do we have any more questions before we officially jump out of here? Because I know we're probably well over
Oh,
time.
are we well over time? Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm
It was
learning.
a lot of learning, a lot of questions, a lot of information. Now, if I did not get to your question, I will always make sure to go back through and read them and respond to you guys. So again, you can always get in touch with me on the Emmy, host of Jerry's Live Facebook page. You can directly contact me there, or just leave your comment in the chats, and I will also make sure to check that out.
Okay.
And then this one, that'll be oil painting. Did I convince you?
If I can paint with you every single time, that's it.
I'm okay with this.
Perfect.
I'm okay with this.
Consider me an oil painter.
I love it. I love it. But that was the show, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, make sure you join me next week. We are going to be doing a oil painting, glazing like a master. Yes.
Do you want to tell them?
Yes, I feel like this is going to be necessary. This is my last live show for the next month because I'm going to a residency in France. I'm leaving relatively soon to fly over to France, and I am going to be attempting to go live there if I can, Wi-Fi willing kind of a thing. You know, we're gonna do what we can. I'm gonna be in the middle of the countryside, so I have no clue how our internet is going to work very well. But you guys definitely should subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when we're going live, because it's not going to be a set schedule. But we do have new shows scheduled throughout the next month, because that's how long I'm going to be gone. So new shows are going to be happening. I'm going to attempt to be there live in the chats so I can still answer your questions and everything. But again, Wi-Fi willing. But we have amazing shows. I hope you guys enjoy them. Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having me.
much. Eee! Ophelia's amazing, guys. Give her,
Oh,
give her all
you're
the
an
respect.
amazing
her and her
teacher, because literally, I would never try this on my own.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have this show. It is an intimidating medium, and you are awesome. I appreciate you being my guinea pig.
Oh my gosh, you're the awesomest teacher ever.
Well, if you guys enjoyed it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, and we will see you guys next time. You ready to dance
Dancing,
off?
let's do it.
Yep.